It's my honor to be the first speaker here, invited speaker. I am originally a dermatologist, but no longer. I am now mostly a director of a virtual hospital, which is called SIOS. So I do have a conflict of interest. But from my work as the director of this medical hospital, telemedical hospital, I've become a professor by special assignment in telemedicine, appointed by the Dutch Association of Medical Doctors 2 years ago. So that's my background. And you saw now a lot of London. But I'm going to show you in a different way Amsterdam. So if you don't like London, take the plane to Amsterdam. No, sorry. But this is Amsterdam. So this has been built until, let's say, the 17th century. This is the really old part. Here is the red light district. And this part of Amsterdam has been built in the golden century. And this has been built in 12 years' time. And I'm going to tell you something about the most important strip in Amsterdam. It starts with the central station, then it goes here to the Rokin, and then we go to the Vijzelstraat. This was, let's say, commercially the most important part of Amsterdam. And the first building that you will encounter is our Beurs of Berlage. Anyone knows what that is? That was our stock exchange. This was the basis of our industry. Has been, very, very important. Everything about industry happened here in this building. It was kind of the most expensive building per square meter. You could not hire office space here or in the surrounding. It was too expensive. What do you think this building is now?
Your office?
That's a good one. My son's office. No. Thank you for the compliment. But it is a museum. It's a conference center. It's a museum. It does not exist anymore. There's no stock exchange anymore. It's all virtual. It's all virtual. It does not exist anymore. So we go to the next building. Anyone knows who this is, what this is? This is, and we are on the same street, the most expensive street. This is the Vijzel building. This is the typical example of Amsterdam School. It was a really high standard building. It was owned by ABN AMRO, the most important bank in Amsterdam. But not only this building, the whole street was ABN AMRO. Everything. The Vijzelstraat, ABN AMRO. What is it now? Not my office. A museum. It's a museum. It's the same. So that was the second. Here, third. Vroom en Dreesman. It is the biggest shopping, let's say, chain in the Netherlands. It was, every city on every main location had a Vroom en Dreesman, V&D. Does not exist anymore. It has been completely replaced by retail through the internet. I go through here. The Holland International, the biggest travel agency in the Netherlands, does not exist anymore. It is booking.com. Oh, there's Paola. Immediately arriving from Barcelona, so thank you.
Not observed.
So there has been some changes in the Netherlands. So, these were all in this location. And then here you see another thing that had been a gasthuis. That was part of the academic hospital until the 70s. So the main academic hospital was in the city center. And Well, of course, we did not have the IT revolution at that time. So what did they decide? Okay, we have to go out of the city. So we make the AMC, Academic Medical Center, which is the largest building in Europe. The largest building in Europe. And now it is integrating with the other academic center in the Netherlands. It will be one of the biggest academic hospitals worldwide. And what do you think about the building that they are going to plan? They are planning not to have any building. So, are we still going to the hospital in 2030? Who thinks yes? There will still be hospitals in 2030. Of course. Who thinks no? Well, of course there will be hospitals in 2030, but they will be completely different from how they look now. And I think that more and more structures like Airbnb, I always say the hospital is Marriott, and what is going to be the future is Airbnb in healthcare. And I will give you some examples. Let's start with teledermatology. That's why we're here for. This is one of the most known examples of how intelligent internet changes healthcare delivery. Instead, and I give this example to audiences because, let's say, teledermatology, I'm still involved in this, but in my work, I'm much more involved in e-mental health now, in tele-ophthalmology, in telediagnosis. So teledermatology is not the biggest service in the Netherlands anymore. We have other e-mental health projects which are much larger, or tele-ophthalmology which are much larger, but it is the finest examples. And when I talk to audiences who are not medical doctors, and I ask them, you can choose. You have a mole which irritates you, and your best friend's mother died of a misdiagnosed melanoma. You're worried about it. You go to the GP, and your GP, general practitioner, says, well, I don't think it's something, but I will refer you to the dermatologist. And you have to wait 6 weeks. You take half a day off. You go there. You wait 1 hour in the waiting room, and then after 2 minutes, you're out. Because it's a verruca seborrhoica. You feel cheated in a way, you know. But you can choose for teledermatology. Your GP will make a picture, will refer it to the dermatologist. You have a 75% chance that you will not need to go to the dermatologist. If there's something happening, you will be there the same day. The whole process will take no longer than 5 hours, and it's 25% of the costs. And then I ask people to choose. Well, you know, there is not one patient, because we are all patients, there's not one person in the audience, and I did this 1 week ago for an audience of over 2,000 people. The Minister of Health, Dutch Minister of Health, was there also, and everyone chose for teledermatology. So this is something that what is going to happen. And in my view, of course, you can argue my view. I am completely biased, I know that. But in my view, 25% of all referrals to the hospital, not only in dermatology, but in ophthalmology, in any field, can be replaced by teleconsultation. So that's one. Another thing is all those routine controls in the hospital. We call it handshake visits. Once a year, blood pressure control for hypertensive patients. Why do they go to an internal medicine? They can go to the GP, or they can even go to this physician in assist or the nurse to have their blood pressure controlled. In my view, 25% of all these polyclinic outpatient visits in the hospital, they are made up by handshake consults. They can be referred to primary care, and they can be performed not only by GPs, but also, what I said, a lot by paramedics. And digital healthcare makes it possible that this will happen under supervision, remote supervision of medical specialists. So just by mentioning teleconsultation and, let's say, handshake consults, I have already diminished the polyclinic visits by 50%. Then there's a remaining 50%. And as a doctor, for this remaining 50%, 80%, you do not really need the very expensive hospital facilities. You can do it in a simple building close to the patient, not far, not because this center is, let's say, 15 kilometers out of the center of, 10 miles out of the center of Amsterdam, you know? You can make nice little Airbnb spots where you work as a doctor. So, that's already 90% of all polyclinic visits taken away from the hospital. Then, of course, a big function of the hospital is diagnosis, laboratory diagnosis, X-ray, pathology. If you consider, let's say now I'm talking about the Dutch situation, but I think the situation in other countries is not different. We have 100 laboratories in the Netherlands. And they all have such an overcapacity that we can do with 5. 5 laboratories can handle all the blood in the Netherlands, and we have 100. From an economic point of view, this is strange. And so you might argue that it's not going to take a long time, that all the diagnostic services from the hospital, they are taken out of the hospital, and they will just serve a regional area. One diagnostic center will serve the region. So then we've taken out the outpatient clinic, and we have taken out the diagnostic department of the hospital. Then, of course, everyone says to me, yeah, but we will need operating rooms. Of course, we will need operating rooms. But don't forget, don't forget that non-invasive techniques are getting more and more prominent. That also, for instance, now we have there has been a big research on claudicatio intermittens, that always you needed to do an operation. But now the proof has been more and more that physiotherapy is more successful than doing this operation. And we see more and more of this happening. So I do think that we will need the operation room, but we don't need this whole hospital around this operation room. So we will still need it, we'll still need to work with each other, but it's questionable whether we still need this huge building, and as to whether we cannot embrace more Airbnb structures in healthcare. And then finally, whom of you booked a hotel room here in London? Let's say 100 pounds, 200 pounds. I hope my staff is not going to lift their finger. 300 pounds, well, okay. But it's all in that range. One night in this hospital, 1,800 pounds. That's the cost in this hospital for any patient. Doesn't matter what you have. We have a very good hotel chain in the Netherlands. They deliver excellent service for 150 euros per night. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So for the very sick patients, okay. But once you're not very sick anymore, maybe there's other parts who can do this better. So I don't want to disappoint you and make you fear, but I think, you know, that it has been proven already in those parts in society where the client is able to decide for the product, that he or she will decide for Uber, for Airbnb, for Booking.com, for whatever. Amazon.com. And what differentiates healthcare from these social sectors? I think there's one important difference, is that a citizen is not fully able to differentiate what is good care, what is better for me, is not perfectly able yet. But it's my conviction that in the coming 10 to 20 years, with better information on the internet, with more transparency about healthcare, these patients will be more consumers, will be more and more able to choose what help and in what way they want their help. And for this choice that I had, the audience made between a physical referral or a teleconsultation, this is what's going to happen in the coming decades. So, and what is funny, maybe you might feel trapped here, because in one way, teledermatology has really been in the front of this social medical revolution. I'm sure that was the first, and it's a very clear example also for policymakers. It's always mentioned in the Dutch government, the success of teledermatology, and it has been the base for changes in other fields. So in one way, you might feel happy to be part of this innovative healthcare. And the other way, I can imagine that you can also think, what's this going to do for my own job? How am I? What are the consequences for me as a medical specialist? And maybe we are going to talk about this later in this Congress. I thank you so much.